Hi, my name's Tom. I'm a philosophy PhD student at the University of Birmingham, and this talk is on colour relationalism and illusions of colour. So the plan for this talk is to first outline the main motivation for colour relationalism, then going to outline what colour relationalism is and the problem of colour illusions for relationalism. I'm then going to outline Jonathan Cohen's recent relationalist analysis of colour illusions, and I'm then going to outline my argument against that analysis. So I'm going to argue that Cohen's relationalism doesn't categorise all colour illusions as colour illusions. Okay, so the main motivation for colour relationalism is the vast amount of variation in colour perception. So here's an example of this kind of variation. So let's imagine that an object looks unique red all over to one standard perceiver, who we'll call Lisa, in a standard viewing condition. And let's imagine that the same object looks orange all over to another standard perceiver called Jess in the same standard viewing condition. By standard perceiver, I just mean that both Lisa and Jess have normal visual systems. So the question here is Lisa's experience of the object veridical, and is Jess's experience of the object veridical? So some think that the object can't be red all over and orange all over at the same time. But if this is the case, then it seems that Lisa's experience or Jess's experience is illusory, or that both are illusory. If the object isn't red all over, then Lisa's experience, which represents the object as red all over, involves an illusion. She represents the object as red all over when it isn't red all over. If the object isn't orange all over, then Jess's experience, which represents the object as orange all over, involves an illusion, since the object isn't orange all over. But it seems appealing to say that both Jess's and Lisa's experience, both Jess's experience and Lisa's experience, are veridical. There doesn't seem to be anything metaphysically, any sort of metaphysically well-motivated way of specifying or outlining or explaining why Lisa's experience would be veridical at the expense of Jess's experience, or that Jess's experience is veridical at the expense of Lisa's experience. So Lisa and Jess are standard perceivers in a standard viewing condition. There doesn't seem to be anything that would make it the case that Lisa's experience is involved in an illusion, but that Jess's experience is veridical, or that Jess's experience involves an illusion, but that Lisa's experience is veridical. So relationalism is motivated by this desire to categorize both Lisa's and Jess's experience as veridical. Okay, so I'm going to focus on Jonathan Cohen's relationalism. Cohen argues that colours are constituted by certain fine-grained relations. And these fine-grained relations are relativized to single perceivers in single viewing conditions. So an example of one of these relations would be the relation unique red for Lisa in condition C1. So when Lisa sees the object as red, the object is arguably unique red for Lisa in the perceptual condition that Lisa is in. And by perceptual condition, I just mean the lighting conditions she's in. So Cohen argues that this relation, that this object bears this relation to Lisa. Cohen also argues that the object bears the relation orange to Jess in condition C1. So this is another fine-grained relation. So we have unique red for Lisa in condition C1 and orange for Jess in condition C1. So Cohen argues that these relations are compatible. The object can consistently be unique red for Lisa in condition C1 and orange for Jess in condition C1. Cohen argues that Lisa veridically represents the object as unique red for her in the perceptual condition she's in. So Lisa veridically represents that fine-grained colour relation. Cohen also argues that Jess veridically represents the fine-grained relation orange for her in perceptual condition C1. So Cohen argues that his relationalism categorises both Lisa's experience and Jess's experience as veridical, because he argues that there are these fine-grained relations and that these fine-grained relations are compatible relations, and that perceivers represent these fine-grained colour relations. So that's the main appeal of relationalism and the main motivation for relationalism. The thought is that there's this perceptual variation when it comes to colour, and it seems as though we want to categorise lots of these cases that seem to conflict in terms of colour perception. Well, how do we do this? Cohen says that we can do this by positing these fine-grained colour relations, and his view is that perceivers represent these fine-grained relations, and they do so veridically. One problem for this view of colour is that there are colour illusions. So a colour illusion occurs when a perceiver's experience represents an object as having a colour it doesn't possess. So you can imagine that you see an object in strange lighting conditions or unusual lighting conditions, and it looks blue in those lighting conditions, but normally the object would look red. In good lighting conditions, the object would look red. So in this case, you see the object as having or you represent the object as having a colour it doesn't have. But it seems that relationalism makes colour illusions impossible. So if we imagine this case where the object looks blue in the strange lighting conditions, when it normally looks red in good lighting conditions, in the strange lighting conditions, the object is blue for you in the perceptual condition you're in. And according to Cohen's relationalism, you would be veridically representing that relation in that unusual lighting condition. So Cohen's relationalism kind of makes it the case that that experience is, spits out that experience is veridical, but that experience isn't veridical. It involves an illusion of colour. So this is a problem for Cohen's relationalism. So Cohen has recently tried to explain colour illusions within a relationist framework. So Cohen argues that as well as representing fine-grained colour relations, i.e. red for Lisa in perceptual condition C1, perceivers also represent relations which are relativized to a slightly broader range of perceivers and a slightly broader range of viewing conditions. So he calls these relations coarse-grained colour relations. So an example of one of these relations would be red for perceivers similar to Lisa in perceptual conditions Lisa normally comes across. Cohen argues that when an experience has a colour illusion, the experience does veridically represent a fine-grained colour relation, i.e. red for Lisa in perceptual condition C1, but the experience erroneously, falsely represents a coarse-grained colour relation. So if we imagine the case whereby you see an object in unusual lighting conditions and your experience represents the object as blue when it would normally look red in good lighting conditions, Cohen says that your experience veridically represents the relation blue for you in the perceptual condition you're in, but the experience also represents the object as blue for similar perceivers to you in perceptual conditions you would normally come across. And that the object wouldn't be blue for similar perceivers in perceptual conditions you normally come across. In perceptual conditions that you normally come across, the object looks red, and perceivers similar to you would also see it as red, or at least not blue. So there might be some perceptual variation there, but they wouldn't see it as blue in the perceptual conditions that you normally come across. So Cohen argues that these coarse-grained relations explain what's going on with colour illusions. The colour illusions just are false representations of these coarse-grained colour relations. Okay. So I don't think that positing these coarse-grained colour relations does the work that Cohen wants them to do. I think we can imagine a case whereby we have a group of non-standard human perceivers who process light very differently to standard human perceivers. Let's call this this condition that they have coloritis. So when human perceivers have coloritis, their visual system processes light very differently to standard human perceivers. So, for example, when an object looks unique red or orange to standard perceivers in a standard condition, that object would look blue to coloritis perceivers in the same standard condition. So coloritis perceivers see objects as having very different colours to the colours that standard perceivers see objects as having. So I think we would pre-theoretically wish to class the experiences of, or at least many of the experiences of coloritis perceivers as involving colour illusions. So due to this abnormality that coloritis perceivers have, they visually represent objects as having colours that such objects don't have. So when they see the object as blue, when standard perceivers would see the object as red or orange, or a colour pretty similar to red or orange, when coloritis perceivers represent the object as blue, that involves a colour illusion because the object isn't blue. But it seems that Cohen's analysis categorises the experiences of coloritis perceivers as being veridical, the colour experiences of coloritis perceivers as being veridical experiences. So if we imagine the case where they see the object as blue, they represent the fine-grained relation, blue for them, in the perceptual condition they're in, and that relation is veridical. So that's fine according to Cohen's analysis. They also represent the object as blue to perceivers similar to them in perceptual conditions they normally come across. So Cohen intends this representation to be false. Cohen intends that false representation to be what colour illusions are. But it seems here that when the coloritis perceiver represents the object as blue for perceivers similar to them in conditions they normally come across, that representation is a veridical representation because the object is blue to perceivers similar to them in perceptual conditions they normally come across. And it's blue and the reason for that is because perceivers similar to the coloritis perceiver will have coloritis, will have the same condition as them. They'll have the same abnormality with regard to their visual system, and so they'll also represent the object as blue. So with the coloritis cases, when they represent the object as blue for perceivers similar to them in perceptual conditions they normally come across, that representation is veridical. So it doesn't seem to me that Jonathan Cohen's relationalism about colour successfully provides a sort of successful analysis of colour illusions, because it seems to me that some colour illusions escape his sort of net of explanation. He doesn't categorise all colour illusions as colour illusions due to these hypothetical coloritis cases. Okay, that's it. Thank you.